of all the possible oils available to cook and eat, such as sunflower, coconut, soya, canola or rapeseed, peanut, palm, corn, and olive, only one of them is natural, non-refined or adulterated, and is the only one containing phenols as part of its components. This is extra virgin olive oil. Olive oil was first used between 4000 and 3000 BC in an unspecified location in the Eastern Mediterranean. 260 varieties, of which around 25 are the ones most in demand. Throughout the years, a greater amount of oil has been extracted from the same amount of olives. Olea europaea was first cultivated in the region of Canaan in North Syria in the 3rd millennium. The first references we have were found in Aleppo, Syria, where farming extended to and where the first oil mills were found in the 10th century BC. The first presses date from the Copper Age, and commercial activity first began in the Egyptian ports. Later on, in Greece, olive culture began and extended. The olive tree was admired in the Greek culture, and later on the Romans continued developing it and first used lampante oil for street lighting, an oil which is still being used and commercialized nowadays, although not for human consumption. In modern times, in the 1950s of the 20th century, the 3 countries at the head of oil production were Greece, Italy, and Spain. The olive oil production of the 1990s and the onset of mills has continued to grow ever since. Spain did its homework well in terms of olive agriculture, and at the end of the 90s was at the head of olive oil production. This growth translates in the production nowadays being 3 times that of Italy and 6 times that of Greece. Behind them are all the North African and Middle Eastern countries, such as Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, Syria, Egypt, Turkey, Libya, Iran, and Iraq, nearly all of them neighboring the Mediterranean Sea. Equally Cyprus in the European Union, but also countries such as the USA and California, Australia, Portugal, Chile, Peru, and Brazil. In 1980, the International Olive Council was created. It now comprises 23 countries, 10 of them from the European Union, and has a worldwide production close to 3,271,000 tons. There are 2 rules in the IOC. The maximum acidity level for EVO can't be more than 0.8, and in order to achieve 0 defects, it can't have any taste, no rancidity, fermentation, mildew, vinegar, or metallic tastes. Around the 1950s, the first wine and oil tastings made their appearance. These were carried out through a certifying jury, which evaluates certain organoleptic features, mainly taste and smell. It is a subjective system dependent on the features established by the jury, and these values can obviously not be extrapolated to the general public. There are all sorts of EVO contests, from local, provincial or national ones, like the Foods of Spain, to some over 44 internationally acclaimed contests, such as the Flos Olé, the Mario Salinas, or the Los Angeles, London, New York, Australia and Athens ones. We now know that together with the recognized tastes of bitter, salty, sweet and sour, another taste was added to the list, known as umami, which is an intense and pleasant flavor, that of glutamate. Umami was not properly identified until in 1908, the Japanese scientist Ikeda discovered that glutamate was responsible for the taste in kombu seaweed broth. He observed that the taste of kombu dashi, the broth, was different to the sweet, bitter, sour or salty tastes and named it umami. In 2015, researchers Brunning, Matz and Craig identified the sixth taste, that of grease, and called it Oleocanthal. Nutritional experts of Purdue University have proved that the feeling of non-sterified fatty acids or free fatty acids in certain foods stimulate a specific taste, an oily taste, the so-called Oleocanthal. This discovery opens the door to a world linked to EVO and to the works being carried out by Dr. Tim Gilbertson of Utah State University in the USA and by Dr. Philippe Besnard of the University of Bourgogne in France. But even more relevant than the discovery of Oleocanthal is the fact that endless possibilities are now open for the research on fat. Equally important will be the research to determine studies to be carried out on obesity, which had until now remained unstudied, as well as a stream of other researchers linked to the metabolic syndrome, a countless number of scientific projects which will see the light in the next few years. Almost everyone is aware of the presence of cholesterol, and some people might have noticed that doctors, when requesting a cholesterol test, also ask for triglycerides. But what are triglycerides? It could be said that triglycerides are the most efficient way the body has of storing energy, that is, in the shape of fat. Well, what the cells which make up the fatty tissue store are the triglycerides. From a biochemical point of view, it would be the union of 3 fatty acids to one glycerine or glycerol molecule. But in order for fat to be stored as energy, it is necessary for it to be transported through the bloodstream. The concentration of these triglycerides being transported by our bloodstream are the triglycerides which appear in our blood tests. Under normal circumstances, triglycerides come from the fatty acids we absorb through the intestine, which we obtain from the food we eat and which the liver elaborates. The triglycerides are passed into the bloodstream from both organs and are then transported by proteins specifically designed to that effect, the lipoproteins. Lipoproteins, rich in triglycerides, originated in the intestine after a meal, are named chylomicrons. The liver, meanwhile, synthesizes other proteins to transport the triglycerides named VLDL, or very low density lipoproteins. In the blood test, the generic term of triglycerides is applied to the combination of the concentration in plasma of triglycerides issued from chylomicrons as well as from very low density lipoproteins. The risks of maintaining high levels of triglycerides are that it can produce pancreatitis and that triglycerides are an independent cardiovascular risk factor. This is why it is important that the normal limit of triglycerides is within the 150 to 200 milligrams at the highest. Over 200 milligrams and problems can occur. Therefore, the less saturated fat we ingest, the better it is. Extra virgin olive oil should not go over 15% and ideally should stay at 11%. The most important phenols in an EVO are the hydroxytyrosol and tyrosol, the precursors, which is responsible for the bitter taste in EVOs, which are found in parallel to another compound, which is maybe the most important one due to its effects on health. We're talking about oleocanthal. Oleocanthal is responsible for 65% of the peppery flavor in Spanish EVOs and for 90% in the Greek EVOs. It was North American researcher Gary Beauchamp who, with his chance discovery, resulted in what the Italian Montedoro had labeled in 1992 dicarboxymethyl ligostrosidone aglycona. In 1999, while at the Molecular Physics Congress and invited by physicians Massimo Ugo Palma and his wife Maria Beatrice Voltarelli, Gary Beauchamp tried for the first time what was an extra virgin olive oil and was struck by its peppery taste, very similar to that of a pharmaceutical mixture for children containing ibuprofen, which was being developed in his lab in Philadelphia. Beauchamp and his collaborators found a substance called oleocanthal with very similar properties to that of ibuprofen, although with a different formula. This substance was named oleo, from the Latin for oil, acanthus for the thorny peppery taste, and al for aldehyde, which is the chemical substance. Within the same research, they realized that oleocanthal, as well as having that peppery thorny flavor, had anti-inflammatory properties to the extent that 250 milligrams of ibuprofen could compare to 4 spoonfuls of in vitro oil rich in oleocanthal. In 2014, Dr. Jose Antonio Merigo met with Dr. Gary Beauchamp, and in 2015, together with other scientists, they founded, on the Greek island of Zakynthos, the Oleocanthal International Society. In all these years, scientific investigation has continued to grow, and in 2018, a bibliographic compilation on the properties for health of oleocanthal was published by Drs. Kok Lung Pang and Kok Yong Ching of the University of Malaysia. In 2017, Dr. Amerigo and Clara Villanueva, together with Drs. Tello of J.A. Tello Laboratories in Jaén, Spain, Dr. Priego of the University of Córdoba in Spain, and Dr. Guillaume of Modern Olives, Australia, established the International World Best Health EVO contest to reward the best oils in the world on the basis of health. In the third edition of the contest, the Agricola Pobeña company in Chile achieved records of a maximum of 11.3% of saturated fat, 990.7 of total phenols for the Therianos family company in Greece, and of 437 of oleocanthal for the San Francisco de Asís cooperative in Spain. Extra is health.